Right.
That flag up there
Uh-huh.
and their monument was put up by people who were grieving the loss of their fighting men
Gotcha.
and their veterans. Half the fighting men in this state died fighting against people coming down here, burning the city,
Gotcha.
killing, raping, burning people's homes, just taking their cattle, everything they had,
Right.
and they had to fight back.
Gotcha.
They hated those guys that started the war,
Right.
hotheads, that they had to fight.
Right.
95% of the white people in this state did not own slaves. That's in the census.
Oh wow, 95%.
Yeah, and the media is trying to make look all white people guilty. And guess what?
What's that?
They've done genetic tests and they haven't found one person of Negro ancestry yet that doesn't have at least 1 out of 5 of his ancestors were white.
Gotcha. Right.
Okay, that's why you see so many people. Most of the people call themselves black in this country. If they went to Africa,
Right.
they'd look at them and say, that ain't Cassius Clay, he's a white man.
Right.
Because if you mixed in this country, you're black. If you mixed over there, you're white.
Right. Gotcha.
You learn, hey, what do you do?
I'm a photojournalist.
What are you working for?
I'm taking pictures for the New York Times.
Oh, really?
Yep.
You don't do interviews, do you?
Well, no, I'm just a photographer, just a clicker. I mean, I ask enough questions to write a caption.
Yeah. Wait, I was just explaining to him, half the fighting men died in this state. They erected that monument because they wanted to thank the families that lost their men. They wanted to grieve for the dead and for the veterans, the injured, because of respect. They had no idea about hatred. And the flag the same way, that's part of a monument, just like the Vietnam War monument. Had nothing to do with any nut on drugs killing somebody in Charleston. Had nothing to do with religion or anything except. They said plenty of prayers, I'm sure, for those dead soldiers. That's what that monument's about. And the media is twisting things.
What channel are you with?
I'm a photographer for the New York Times.
Does anything that make sense?
It makes sense. Yeah.
But you know, the media is always trying to lie and distort, exploit things like those people that died down there to take away our guns, to take away the flag. You know,
Right.
if the people in this state heard, whatever their race, no matter what their race, if they understood what that flag is up there for and what that monument's there, they would never ask for it. That's the most insane idea to take it down because some lunatic on drugs shot some people.
Gotcha.
And that flag, sure, the Nazis are going to display that flag. They're going to display the American flag. They're going to display the Huasca. Same thing with the KKK and all. They display the American flag and they display that flag. That don't mean that doesn't take one add or subtract one thing from the fact those people didn't put that monument up. And they didn't fight that war over slavery. They passed, before they seceded, they wrote out why. And they did mention that they didn't return the slaves that they agreed to according to the Constitution in there, but they didn't say this war was about slavery. Lincoln didn't say it was about slavery.
What was it about?
It was about the South Carolina felt that its constitutional rights were being violated, and therefore it had a right to withdraw from the contract that it had with the other states to be part of a union. So they decided they wanted their freedom because their grandfathers had fought the British Empire,
Right.
and they wanted to fight the people who were violating their rights as a state.
Which constitutional rights were being violated that they were fighting for?
Well, if you read that Ordinance of Secession,
Yeah.
where they lay out exactly all that, you can find it on the internet.
Okay.
And
It's called the Ordinance of Succession?
yeah,
Okay.
passed by South Carolina, the first to secede.
Okay.
And you'll see that slavery is hardly mentioned at all in there. It's although they mentioned that as one of
Right.
the violations.
Okay.
But you know, the reason that war occurred was the rich folks who owned slaves.
Mm-hmm.
My ancestors didn't own slaves, but guess what? They had slaves,
Gotcha.
their own children,
Right.
because they couldn't compete. They couldn't compete with slave owners
Right.
who
So
had free labor.
So they turned their children into slaves.
Exactly. They had to work like slaves for the same wages.
You don't think they treated them like slaves were treated, though, do you?
Well,
Not the
that's
kids.
another subject. But I'm just saying, they work like slaves. Now, if you manufacture,
Good to see you.
Right.
all
Take
right,
care, brother.
you coming back?
I'll be here Saturday.
All right. You see, if you manufacture, well, let's say you grow watermelon.
Uh-huh.
You go down here to the market and sell your watermelon.
Right.
You don't have slaves, but that other fella over there selling watermelons has got slaves.
Right.
Guess what?
What?
He can sell them cheaper than you can.
Right.
Because you don't have slaves.
Right.
You have to hire people to grow
Right.
those watermelons. Same way with these
So
farmers.
the guy that had slaves had an advantage?
Yeah, well, when he sold his cotton or his corn,
Uh-huh.
he doesn't have any labor costs,
Gotcha.
so he can lower his prices.
Gotcha.
Your kids working like slaves, you can barely make a living because you got to compete with slaves.
Gotcha.
Same as people today having to compete with all these immigrants coming in the country.
Right.
Because they work cheap. You
Gotcha.
can't get a job.
Gotcha. Slaves didn't work for cheap, they worked for free. Or they worked to stay alive.
Well, not likely free, because you see, put yourself in a position of a slave owner. And by the way, the largest slave owner in this country, in South Carolina, was himself a slave at one time.
Okay.
His name was William Ellison. Look him up.
Okay.
Ellison. Largest slave owner in South Carolina. He supported the South during this war.
Okay.
There were many. Slavery wasn't about race. It was about slavery.
Gotcha.
People of all races owned slaves.
Gotcha. But were people of all races slaves?
Yeah, because when they come over here, they had to sign a contract that they would work for free in exchange for their passage.
Okay.
But guess what? If you got a bicycle or a car, you're going to take care of it.
Right.
Because if you beat it, starve to death, it ain't going to work for you.
Right.
The same way with slaves. I got dogs.
Right.
I want my dogs to be as happy and healthy as they can be.
Right.
I don't get anything out of my dogs, but I love them.
Right.
And if a slave master is the same way, if he doesn't get along with his slaves, if they don't like him, he could die real easy.
Right.
So you've got to be mighty respectful, just like any other workman that you're with.
Gotcha.
He gonna quit and walk off the job
Gotcha.
if you don't treat him with respect.
Right.
So the slave owners, by necessity, there might have been a few bad circumstances, but you know, they had to punish slaves, just like you try to punish a dog, but they don't have sense enough to know what you're trying to read it. But you can't punish a dog because they don't have sense. But they would punish a slave for whatever, not obeying what they told them to do.
Gotcha.
But they had to take care of them, they had to feed them, they had to house them, they let them have kids.
Right.
You know, and some of them even worked inside the house where they served, they took care of the youngins.
Right.
You know, they just lied about everything that went on.
Right.
And why? Because they want to divide and conquer
Gotcha.
the people of the United States and of South Carolina.
Gotcha. That's interesting. That's interesting.
But
I'm gonna share. You mind if I share this conversation with some of my friends?
I hope that you will.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I came down here. I hope I find somebody that would let me talk on the air.
Oh yeah, I'm not a reporter, so
Yeah. Well, in the state senate there, you know what, politician Nikki Haley? Did you hear her on TV?
No, I was in a meeting most of the day.
Well, she got up there and said that it's about heritage.
Yeah.
Or some people, it's about heritage. Well, it has nothing to do with heritage. It's about a monument to the dead soldiers and the veterans of the Confederate War. It has nothing to do with heritage.
Right.
Slavery, you know, is that our heritage?
Yeah.
say it's about slavery, but I say the guys that were doing the fighting didn't own slaves.
Didn't know. Gotcha.
And they had to compete with slaves. They had it in things.
Right.
So I wish you could record this. You don't have it
Oh,
on.
no.
But you know, I want people to understand the truth.
Gotcha. That's good though.
What they're doing now, they're trying to base a decision on emotion.
Gotcha.
The emotion that you feel with grieving,
Right.
suffering. These people get up and say, "I forgive them." You know,
So if they take the flag down, what kind of emotions will that bring out in you?
Well, me personally, I'm not a kind of most like people. I just, you know, I'm not the kind of guy I seek revenge or hate anybody.
Right.
In fact, I couldn't reason with you the way I am if I
Right,
felt
yeah.
that way about
Right.
anybody. I wouldn't sit
Right.
here and talk to you if I
Right.
always hated you.
Right.
You know, taking the flag down is just another insult to reason, to dignity of the men that died,
Gotcha.
to the men.
So you feel like it would be an insult to the men that serve this state?
It'd be an insult to the entire population of South Carolina and the world, because it shows that reason has no chance when it comes to making decisions.
Gotcha.
And if we could really think for ourselves, we would realize that those people in there are thinking not about justice or reason. They're thinking about their elections.
Gotcha.
And they don't want to look like they side with a man that killed a bunch of people.
Gotcha.
And,
So it's about votes for them, not about what's right or wrong, you think?
right.
It's about votes?
Yeah, Nikki Haley, she's probably planning on running for president. And she knows that she got to turn her back on that flag.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, the media is going to lay her down on the railroad track and tie
So
it
she'd
to
be
it.
turning her back to the flag if she
She's already done that.
Oh, she's already done that. Gotcha.
Already said that it's time to take it down.
Gotcha. Wow. Wow.
What is your name?
I'm Rod
Les?
Brown.
Rod Brown.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you know something? My name's Stuart.
Okay.
I'm descended from the first High Steward of Scotland,
Oh, wow. Cool.
who was the ancestor of all the kings of Scotland and England.
Uh-huh.
And I'm a descendant of Sir John Stuart of Bonkle, who was an ancestor of the kings of England.
Gotcha.
He died in 1298 fighting at the Battle of Trafalgar, starting the Scottish independence movement,
Okay.
fighting for Scotland's freedom.
Gotcha.
And I found that out by a DNA test.
Oh, wow.
Family tree DNA. They
Okay.
test your Y DNA. It's like a paternity test.
Okay.
Now, your name's Brown. I've got some ancestors who married women named Brown, Stewarts.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to tell you is you have a Y chromosome,
Uh-huh.
and chances are your Y chromosome was from somebody from Africa.
Okay. Right.
But it's a possibility most of these people they call black in
Uh-huh.
this country
Uh-huh.
don't realize that they have more slave ancestors,
Right.
slave and owner ancestors,
Uh-huh.
because most of them didn't own slaves.
Right.
We had no opportunity
Right.
to have intercourse with them,
Right.
but they did.
Right.
Their ancestors
Right.
did.
So it's not a so the people who think they're white, they're not white either, too, because they have African American blood in them.
Well, there's a certain amount of that, but that man over there, you know, if he went to Africa, they would call him a white.
Right.
Now I'm telling you, where did he get his white blood? It wasn't from my kind.
Oh no.
It was from the slave owners.
Right. It was from a slave owner, right? Who was European.
Yeah, most of the time. I have a friend who did a DNA test. Now his name was Hadley, and he was proud of the fact that his family descended from slave owners.
Oh, okay.
And
This is a black guy?
yeah,
Okay.
well, you can call him whatever you want. He had all kind of mixture, Indian,
Okay.
whatever. But anybody else look at him would know that he and you have the same ancestry.
Right.
Mostly that shows up. But the point I'm making is if you have a DNA test,
Yeah.
you may find that you descend from the High Stewards of Scotland.
Gotcha. That's interesting. That's interesting. I'm sure that. It was nice talking to you. I got to get out of here.
What do you do for a living? You look
I,
like you're a pretty good guy.